Hi, everybody. Welcome to my Small Biz Wiz podcast, where we talk all things small biz, in addition to a bunch of other topics that are relevant. So, might be finance, real estate, small biz, and of course, we're going to talk animal rescue. So, today I am so excited to invite my latest guest, Miss Michelle Brignac. She is the director over at the Jefferson Parish Animal Shelter. So, Michelle, I am so grateful that you are here with me today. I know that our audience is going to get a lot of useful information, and I love everything you're doing. So, thank you personally from the bottom of my heart for being here. So, let's talk all things animal rescue today, Michelle.
Thank you for
So,
having
you are so welcome. So, it was very special that you came to Jefferson Parish. Tell us a little bit about how you got involved with our shelter. I know you have a great background, and Jefferson Parish Animal Services is very lucky to have you. So give me a little bit of background on you and how you got into this animal world.
So, not to be too telling about age, but this was almost 20 years ago when I fell into the animal sheltering, municipal, as well as rescue world. It was by accident. It was definitely not something that I would have thought that I would find a calling for and do for the rest of my life. But, I started out young and thought that I was going to actually go into business for myself at some point, got a degree in business management and marketing and administration. And then by accident, there was a time in my life, a major life experience happened. And I needed to find something to do because they didn't want me to work for a long period of time. And I just couldn't do that. So I was like, I need to find something for very few hours. And I ended up working at a very small rural animal facility for a few hours, 2 days a week. And I just kind of slipped into the management position there, over I think just a few short months, and fell into this world completely by accident and uh, fell in love with it. I was fortunate to have the ability to, unknowing, I had no formal training in animal control. I had no formal training in municipal shelters. I had been a part of the rescue efforts after Katrina, but that was about the extent of my background in animal welfare. And because I didn't have the formal training that a lot of people do, I didn't know that there were these myths, there were these beliefs that you couldn't do certain things if you were an open intake municipal facility. And not having the barriers or the beliefs is what led me to learning the rescue aspect and the medical aspect and all the things that go into a functioning shelter, because it was so primitive at that time. There was the hand information. There were no inventory systems for animals. There was a lot of facilities, including the one that I had started at, that didn't do intake vaccines. And so I started making relationships in the area and learned. And I was so blessed to have the veterinarians of the community in St. Martin to step in and help me and say, this is what you can do to help the animals in your care, doing adoption events. And that was unheard of to do those things at an open intake municipal
Yeah.
shelter at the time. And later, there was someone I still call a friend today that was with an organization, and we partnered to pioneer the mass transports of animals out of Louisiana. And it at first, there were a lot of these misnomers. We can't do that. It's illegal. And now it's commonplace. But at that time, we did face a lot of backlash and people thinking that this wasn't a solution to anything. And also, they questioned a lot of the protocols and things that we ended up putting in place. And then next thing you know, not only is it commonplace, but it's almost something that's expected. And there are, instead of the pilots for JPAWS, which is how we were flying animals out, which had just
Yeah.
been formed by a group of that just wanted to help. Now they're doing mass flights as well. So it's been interesting to be a part of it. An industry that for 100 years didn't change. And just in the last, 10, 20 years, it's changed so much in such a short amount of time. So
Really
it is
has. Yeah.
the thing ever.
Yeah, it's evolved a lot. And honestly, Michelle, I like where it's going. We have to keep it moving forward. You know that, and I know that. We have to just keep it moving forward because we need to continue with the solutions. We've come a long way though, but as you know, we have just an overpopulation problem.
Yes.
And exactly what you're talking about, all these programs and things that have come into fruition, like the spay and neuter programs and things like that, have done just so much to help our community. I mean, there's no reason why we shouldn't be doing this. And because of voices like yourself, we've been able to get that done for people that maybe necessarily can't afford it. All of the animals that you all adopt out are spayed and neutered. And so I really commend you. It sounds like you were part of this progress that's been happening. And so that's amazing to me. And I hope that you and me and others can use our voices to keep it going. So, how did you come to Jefferson Parish? I know you were at a smaller shelter and then you found yourself over here. Like, did you just see the need for the situation here in Jefferson Parish?
So I guess I wanted to explore more of the field. So, I did quite a bit of, rescue response, and then I started doing transports, and this is outside of there. And then I started consulting with larger shelters and helping them with some of their, whether they were trying to separate from animal control or they were trying to adapt to house animal control. I started helping these larger shelters in that area. And repairing some of their infrastructures or putting programs in place or just helping wherever I can. I did have the ability to work for an amazing rescue group for a period of time, and I got to see some of that from the other side of it. And I was actually at a very large transport, and I'll never forget. I had animals from all over the place in a vehicle that I was driving for a rescue group, and I was going to a flight. And it was actually some of the larger national organizations that were there, as well as a few
Mm-hmm.
smaller ones that I had worked for. They had approached me and were kind of like, what are you doing now? And I was like, this is what I'm doing. I'm helping wherever I can and trying to, keep the progress growing and going in the positive. And they said, well, we would like for you to consider going and helping Jefferson Parish. And originally I did say no. They didn't really give up, because in this world you learn, you don't really hear no, you hear not right now. And a phone call, and the individual that I spoke to was very passionate about the need and what was going on. And they had assured me it's only going to be 8 months, and we really just need somebody to go in and just, in 8 months, we don't expect you to right the ships, but we definitely need to get them in a better situation than they're in now.
Yeah.
I didn't have, and still today don't know the past, of as little of that could be shared with me. That's where I wanted to be with that. I just wanted to come in and figure things out and just get them at least upright and moving in the right direction. And 5 years later, it's been the longest 8 months of,
Yeah, no, I
but
know it
it's
flew by. It really did. I mean, I remember when they were approaching you to come and help and kind of clean up the mess and get them back to where they needed to be. And Michelle, I mean, just as an outsider looking in, I saw what you did. Just being a normal outsider, I saw that you cleaned it up and made it a wonderful place. And now you guys have this beautiful shelter, which I've been to, which I frequent. I need to stay away from the shelter because I always come home with y'all's animals. I wish Sue Sampe would stop sharing so much. No, I'm just kidding. But if I could stop seeing her posts, that would be great because I'm tapped out at this point. But why don't you walk me through a day in your life at the shelter? I know it starts early and it ends late, but I really want people to hear what all you do in your day as a director of this facility.
So I guess it would depend. And that is one of the things that I guess brings me back every day is the fact that no day is the same.
Right.
There's always something new. And so in a way that can be exciting, it can be a little stressful because you never know what you're going to be hit with. But so my day generally starts about 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning. My phone may start going off, emails, whether it was from late the evening before or that morning, because people know that I'm up and awake. And so from just inquiries in general from rescue groups about animals in our care, I do check to see if there are any posts that are of animals in distress so that I can kind of get on top of that. I'll walk in the door and usually I hit the ground running here, doing rounds, checking to make sure the employees are okay and also where they should be for the day. See if there are any outstanding issues or conversations that were supposed to take place that didn't, because sometimes we get really busy. And depending on what meetings or podcast in this case, you might
Yeah.
have to do. That everybody in the building, as far as the animals in our care, are doing well, get information from the managers. When's the next flight? Are we on top of that? How many animals are on the dock? Who else are we talking to? If there's any other outlets for them, have we followed up with some of the rescue groups that have contacted us? You checking in with the vet staff on animals that have received care, where we are with their care, checking on animals that may have been brought by citizens to Metairie Small Animal Hospital, and then coffee, and
And then
then
coffee.
checking just to kind of see where we are for the day and making preparations. In the event we're short staffed, I tell my staff all the time, I'm not going to make you do anything I wouldn't. So even if they don't really like it, I do help as much as I can in the back, which,
Yeah.
I mean, if I have meetings that day, sometimes they'll sit down from me if I have to go.
Yeah.
And I've been in the back just trying to stay rooted, and side by side with the employees so that I always know what's going on. And then I try to delegate to myself instead of to others. I need to sit down and try to take 15, 20 minutes a day just to kind of see what's out there, what other wheels are turning, what are the rescue, what are other municipal shelters doing, so that I can try to, come up with ideas, or even looking at gaps in service and things that we can do to help the community. And
Yeah.
and of course, every now and then you get to actually have an animal in my office or spend some time with those in the back, or come up with things to just kind of de-stress the others that work in the government environment, that,
Yes.
try to figure out things there too. So I'm just kind of all over the place all the time. My day generally doesn't end until I fall asleep. So, because
Right.
it's a need. There's always, and it's hard because I want to help, of course, Jefferson, but I really want to help all over, and
I
it's
know
just,
it's
it's
hard.
never ending.
I know.
It is.
Last night, I felt so great because there was an animal that was in a rough situation that I had kind of shared about. And I finally found out that this sanctuary that I had kind of been in touch with, they have decided to take the dog. And I felt excited about that because I knew that the dog was going to get a better life. And then that 3 minutes later, it was a whole nother 10 dogs that were like in need, in distress. So, I mean, that part of it gets exhausting, Michelle. So, talk to me about what you're doing to get the animals once the ones in your care are off. What are you doing for the next ones? I heard you say something about flights. So, talk to me about that. Are you getting animals into like in the planes to go elsewhere? Like, that kind of caught my ear. Like, tell me what you mean by that.
So we have an amazing partnership with the Greater Good Charities flights, the rescue flights. And
Okay.
so they have a network of some amazing rescue groups that will pull animals that they know that they can get adopted. So my management team, who are amazing, they
Mm.
will actually load, a Google Doc with information and animals, and hope that some of the rescues will tag them and things like that. And then we get them to the flights. The flights actually leave extremely early as well. And once
Hmm.
they get there, the rescues are there to the other end, and that is best case scenario. And
Yeah.
because adoptions are down, so that's been one of our, rescues have been one of our primary sources for positive outcomes. So
No,
we look forward
that's
to the flights.
yeah. That's amazing. So is it that these animals are going to flights like in the north?
Yes, a
Okay.
lot of them are
Yeah.
up north. They don't have as many problems with the
Right.
overpopulation as the south does. So
Right.
we're
And
filling a
that's
need
one
for
of
them as well.
yeah, that's like one of my questions. What are we doing different down here that's not working for us? I know that a lot of rescues are, sending dogs to the north. What are we doing down here wrong?
So up north, they have very restrictive laws for breeders. They spay neuter. They provide many different services and ways for people to be able to receive those services. And because of that, obviously, their intake numbers at their facilities and even their shelters are really low. Their adoptions are
Yeah.
extremely high. And they also don't see as many of the larger breeds of dogs and things like that. Now, there have been a few states that have put things in place for certain breeds. They don't allow the adoption of certain breeds. But I
Hmm.
think they've found that even that wasn't working. So they did start going to some of their, but they also have a bunch of their renters, their apartment complexes. They're more open to having large breeds in their apartment complexes and things like that. They're not as restrictive. We're very restrictive in the South when it comes to who will allow certain breeds, especially large breed dogs in their rental homes and or apartments. So
Hmm.
that actually puts a pretty, you know, especially if you live in a booming metropolitan area where a lot of people rent. And when they move to an area and find out that they can't bring their
Yeah.
Mastiff or Husky, Shepherd, Bull, then
Yeah.
they end up bringing them here. So putting
Gotcha.
restrictions like that.
Yeah, that kind of limits us here in the South. That's really interesting. I'm glad that you shared that with me because it does sound like they have better laws in place in the North as well. So I'm just looking to see, like, okay, what can we do for some change? What can we do to work on that and so that we can help pets get adopted. But you are so right. I can't tell you the amount of people I see on Facebook saying, I need to rehome my dog. I have to move. I can't take the dog. And it breaks my heart because you just don't know the circumstance of the person and why they're leaving. So, but anyway, I digress. Let's pull it back into Jefferson Parish. So, Michelle, let's talk about the current event going on right now, the Clear the Shelters event. Tell me everything about this event right now.
So I don't even know how many organizations across the United States right now are taking part in Clear the Shelters. Of
Mhm.
course, it is a Greater Good Charities, Best Friends, a bunch of groups came together to do this. And it's super exciting for Clear the Shelters. The idea is exactly that: try to get more people in to adopt out, to clear the shelters, so that we don't have as many animals here that are separated from their people, and they really need people badly. So we have actually lowered our adoption fee to $10, and that's for cats and dogs, kittens and puppies. And that still includes the spay, neuter, rabies, vaccinations, deworming, microchipping. We've pretty much, you name it, we do it. And we have increased some of the amount of adoptions that because during the summer it slows a little bit whenever kids are home, and then it may pick up it whenever they go back to school. Anybody's best guess as to why that is, but
Right.
they've been coming in. We've been getting animals, and it's been pretty exciting. I mean, it's an amazing thing to be a part of. You don't have to worry about the marketing. They do all of that. You just blast it out and try to get people in the building. We have even done an adoption event with the JSPCA at Jefferson Feed on Jefferson Highway, and
Mhm.
we're going to be doing another one September 7th. Almost every animal that we brought the last time, every dog was adopted except for one, Florian, and I believe Florian will be making a repeat visit on the 7th,
Love
and
it.
we'll be bringing more out there and hope that the same thing happens. It'd be nice to not bring any back. So we're excited about that as well.
Yeah,
And
no,
we're going to try to
that's
participate every single year, you know.
yes. Yeah. No, I saw the last one that you guys did at Jefferson Feed was super, super awesome. Y'all had a lot of adoptions. And I always tell people, I joke, I'm like, you guys are looking for love in all the wrong places. You're looking for love in the bars. You're looking for love on the internet. Why aren't you looking at your local parish shelter? You guys are looking for love in the wrong places. The right pup or kitty is just waiting to give you lots of kisses and love. I mean, am I
No, it's unconditional. They will absolutely love you. If you believe in love at first sight, they need to pay us a visit and also know that it's an unconditional love and there is nothing like it. So,
right? There's
they're
just
not
nothing.
gonna, if you like, they're they an animal doesn't care if you watch TV all day and get crumbs of potato chips on your shirt. They'll love you no matter what. So this is definitely a place you can come to get unconditional love.
Right. Like my dogs are happier to see me at the end of the day than my husband. It's like, we just have that little unconditional bond that no other being in the world can do for me. So, the Clear the Shelters event is going on August 10th to September 10th. Again, like Michelle said, animal adoptions are $10, puppies, kittens, and they all come fully vaccinated. I mean, it's a deal you really just can't pass up. And I've adopted several pets from you guys, and it's been an absolute pleasure. They've all been easy dogs. You guys must have them on some kind of routine. I don't know how, but all the dogs I've ever gotten from you guys have just been easy, easy. It was like an easy transition. Of course, I was being patient and I wasn't expecting it to be easy because it's not. But I always adopt the pitiful ones and the ones that just like want a lap to sit on or want a dog bed and a toy and to just be left alone. But you guys are really setting these animals up for success. They're fully vaccinated, microchipped, all of that stuff. So if you are looking for companionship and you're looking for it to be affordable, make sure that you hit this Clear the Shelters event. It's until September 10th. So I think that's really awesome. Michelle, I do have another question for you. What can we do in the community as far as educating the generations below us about how to take care of animals? Do you have any kind of school program where you go into the schools, or would you guys ever consider doing something like that to educate the kids?
So, yeah, actually, we have various different schools across Jefferson Parish, depending on the age and grade. We went to the schools. Of course, these are for the smaller children. I've even brought my own dog just to show them I adopted him from here. And I did put some my own personal training. It's not like I paid a trainer or anything. And this is what it takes for me to care for a pet. So we've done some of that with the younger kids. And from junior high to high school, we've had them in the building every grade where they've gotten educated, toured, we've put them to work. We had the 11th and 12th graders actually doing fecal exams, and which some of them weren't a fan of. They just learning the processes, why we exist, what we do while they're here. They did have fun running with the dogs and playing with the cats. Of course, they did have time to do that, but a lot of it was educating them on the need and responsible pet ownership and how we can actually eventually make the need for us non-existent in the future, because we have to believe that is a possibility through education and services. And I would love for us to be nothing more than just a provider of services and education, rather than a facility that has to house so many that just don't have a person to care for them. So, and I think that education is going to be a huge component for that. And so we go out to, besides the meetings, because we go out to a lot of community meetings and elementary schools, kindergarten, private schools, public schools, and then we've had a lot in the building. We also try to engage with the FF, the Future Farmers of America. We have the Boy Scouts, senior assisted living facilities we went and spoke at. So we're kind of all over the place. We definitely believe in grassroots and community outreach. So
Oh, that is so refreshing to hear
it's been
because it is fun. It is fun. And I agree with you. I think education is what's going to get us to the goal that you guys have, to where you can just provide services. I never learned anything about it, unfortunately, until I was in my 20s. I just didn't think about it. We didn't talk about it. I didn't think about it. I had dogs, but they were always, given to me. I never really went to a shelter, experienced it there, adopted a dog. And so I think if we get kids involved younger, it's definitely going to make a difference. My son, he's very involved in rescue. He's 6. Okay. Now I can't bring him to certain facilities and stuff, but we do animal rescue on our own. When he was born, we had 5 rescues. So he's been around dogs his whole life, and he is aware because just from being with me, he's aware. I mean, we've rescued kittens off of West Esplanade. We've chased dogs. We've rescued birds. And so he's aware of it. But the average kid is not. So something else that I thought was really cute is that at his school, they have an animal rescue club, just like they have a key club. They have an animal rescue club. So I think that is super exciting too. And I always tell the teacher in charge of it, I'm always like, hey, if you need a guest speaker, let me know. I have some people that can, come and talk to these kids, or I'll come talk to them. But I really think that educating the kids and the high schoolers is gonna get us to that goal. Can kids do their service hours at the shelter? I know some of the high schools require service hours.
So yes, actually, we not only let them do service hours in the building if that's what they would like to do, but also we can give them service hours for fostering. They can come in and foster a fully vetted pet to do their service hours at home, because it gets the animal out and they get a little break, and then we learn so much about the animal while they have it. They're able to give us feedback and things like that. So for those that maybe would have trouble getting here every day or an actual schedule, then we do offer things like that as well, where they can foster, or they could pick up Kongs and bring them home and fill them and bring them back. So we kind of figure out how they can obtain the hours while also doing what it is that they need to do. But it allows them to, kids are busy. They're just busy. They want to do all of these things. So this will give them time to do that.
Yeah, no, that's really, I never even thought about that. You see, I never even thought about that. Like letting the high schooler take home a pet to foster. That is such a win-win situation, because not only is it teaching them to care for the animal and they're getting their service hours, but you are also giving that animal a break from the shelter and letting the animal sort of decompress. That is such a win-win situation. Oh my God, Michelle, I'm going to talk to every high schooler I know about that. I love it.
Yes.
Well, that's awesome.
They love it too. Some of them have actually foster failed because of it.
Hello.
So
that's me. Foster fail. Can you say foster fail? Oh, yeah, that's really cool. So something else that I recently heard, my mother-in-law was telling me that one of her friends' grandkids went to this summer camp. I know nothing about the summer camp or where it is. All I know is that every week he got to take home a new pet to care for. And I was like, what? Like, come again? And I was like, oh my God, maybe we need like a summer camp for young, responsible adults that want to foster some animals, What would you ever consider something like that?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I think that would actually be fun. I mean, we do our little summer camp here, but it's mostly based on education and proper animal handling and care. But that's actually a pretty interesting idea, if they would be willing to come and foster. If we do it for service hours, I mean, we'd love to do it for people who might want to provide like a summer camp animal fostering, teaching them how to foster an animal and what it takes. So I think that would actually be pretty cool.
Yeah, I was like enlightened by that. I was like, wait a minute, am I too old to do that? Like, can I go to the summer camp? But yeah, I mean, it's really just about getting creative, and you are so full of creative ideas that you have brought to Jefferson Parish. Um, what is the ideal volunteer? Like, who would you love to see come in and volunteer or foster? Describe to me in your own words who that would be.
No, that's funny because the minute you said ideal volunteer, we have a volunteer that actually popped into my head. Somebody that comes from a place of understanding that, obviously we have a job to do. There's cleaning that goes into it, and we actually clean in a certain manner so that from healthy to sick kind of thing so that we don't spread disease, and we have to keep herd health in mind. And to come from a place of like you actually want to give, you want to come in and walk the dogs or socialize with the cats and enrich their lives and spend time with them, getting to know them and being able to give us information of the ones that you've fallen in love with and why, and goes to adoption events and shows up to help because we are doing more and more of those, and we definitely need volunteers for those because we want to bring as many animals as possible, and sometimes not having enough volunteers kind of limits that. And somebody that gets along with, and just a big-hearted person who wants to be there, because a volunteer basically does things that we in the process of the day and with our tasks and what we have to do to provide appropriate care, whether it's medical care or feeding, cleaning, a huge facility like this, we need a volunteer to step in and do the things that we wish that we could do. And although I will say that now employees at the end of the day, they do have the ability to select an animal and spend time with them one-on-one for the latter part of the day, having a volunteer that can just add one more person with one more pet in enriching their lives and making them happier, the stay that they do have here more pleasant, that would to me would be the ultimate volunteer. And we're lucky because we do have a few that are like that.
Yeah, so that sounds really good. And I'm thinking too, like, if you're retired, if you're semi retired, if you're taking a couple of college classes and have the time, or if you're in your senior year of high school and maybe have like a half a day, some of the kids go to school a half day their senior year. Those make really, really good volunteers too. That's the ones I've come across that a lot of times people are retired and all of a sudden have time on their hands and they don't know what to do with themselves. I'm like, go volunteer, go see what you can do at your local shelter. And so shout out to my retirees. If you're looking for love and you have some time on your hands, what better place to go? You don't need to go to the bar, you need to go to the shelter. So, Michelle, for the people that, let's say the citizens specifically of Jefferson Parish, that can't adopt and foster, they like animals, but they don't want to take one on necessarily. What can they still do to be proactive in our animal community in Jefferson Parish? What can they still do to contribute?
So I've actually had this discussion with quite a few people because there are even those that they don't necessarily want to come to the shelter, and you can help us with networking, helping us with even marketing, because word of mouth is still one of the best ways to get information out there. Become a neighborhood ambassador for the animals. That doesn't mean that you have to go out and try to rescue a bunch of animals, but just educating your neighbor about what resources we have here, what options they have in lieu of surrendering, or if they need help with medical training, things like that, going and having conversations with them with tools that we've provided or information we've provided, educating yourself on what services there are available for the community, and then spreading the word about those things. Obviously, sharing the animals that are in need, and then having conversations, which I know a lot of people, especially now, it's a little awkward to have conversations with people that you aren't 100% comfortable with, but to help with some of the issues that we do have in this community as well as communities across the state would be just spay neuter and the need for it, and sharing links or ways that they can do it at low cost if they don't have the ability to afford it, and the science behind it, as well as information regarding community cats and the science behind the programs. I mean, there's a lot of ways that a person who doesn't want to be hands-on per se can help, even if they don't have any time, if they're retired, if they're not retired. There are so many things that you can do that will actually help the community and the animals in it, and those are just a few of the ways that you can do that.
Also, just a reminder, I always tell my friends that aren't necessarily animal rescue people, hey, can you just give this a quick share on your Facebook? Because those kind of things make a really big difference too, because you never know on your social media account who might be looking for an animal, even if you're not an animal person. So, also sharing on social media has definitely been really good too. But I like what you're saying too. People don't realize that there are so many more resources that you can provide. One that just caught my ear was, let's say somebody was thinking about surrendering their dog. What solutions would you personally say, Michelle, if someone came in there and said, I'm just going to surrender. Times are tough. I can't take care of my dog anymore. Like what solution can you offer?
So we do actually have a lot of those conversations because we want to find the root cause. When somebody says they can't afford the animal any longer, we want to know exactly what they mean, because that looks like so many different things. Sometimes it's grooming, and we do have so many groomers that are willing to help if it means keeping the pet with their owner. If it's medical, medicine, things like that, they've fallen on hard times, or it's getting expensive and they're trying to figure things out. There are organizations that will help, short term to provide those things so that people don't have to make that tough choice. Spaying and neutering, of course, that's something that Jefferson is amazing at. There's services out there and programs that are available. And then training, I can't afford training, and the dog or cat, even I've never really had many cat training issues myself, but I've recently heard of one, and there are trainers for them as well that we've linked them up, and there are trainers and organizations that are also willing to help us help people with those types of things. Even if it's not having them come into your home, it could be very, like tele video conferencing kind of
Yeah.
thing. Food, of course, we're starting it. We've always offered some food when food has been donated to us for the use
Hmm.
of giving it to the community. um, We've
Hmm.
always done that. Now we're trying to do it on a larger scale, offering a pet food pantry to the community. We're still working on that. And there are so many different companies and individuals that want to help support that by donating so that we can give it to those in need. So there are so many different ways that we can offer solutions. And the other thing we hear a lot of, I'm gone all day. And we do have the conversations because I work really long
Hmm.
hours, but I know my dog Rolo is so happy to see me at the end of the day. And I know that if he were here, he wouldn't get that. He may be alone all day, but
Yeah.
he's not alone 24/7. And this environment is just not a happy, excited, environment for a dog where he can be himself.
Yeah.
And that's really what we want. They're much happier in their home. So kenneling, we've offered that. My dog keeps escaping. We've offered solutions for that as well. So, I mean, there are resources out there, and we will help you. We just need to know what the issue is so that we can help you keep your pet.
Yeah. And I really want to emphasize this part of the podcast. I don't think that people realize that Jefferson Parish Animal Shelter will help and find solutions. You do not always have to give up your pet. So, I mean, Michelle is here talking about what you can do. And it's so true, Michelle. You and I are both at work all day. Our pets are at home. But guess what? They are better off at home than they will be if you bring them to a shelter. And at the end of the day, they're going to have what they need. And they're better off at home. I appreciate you sharing those resources. So if you're having trouble with your pet before surrendering it, please make sure that you have a conscious conversation with somebody at the shelter first. And I'm sure that you do have those conversations a lot. Michelle, what are some of the basic laws and rights of animals in Louisiana that some of us may not know? I know personally myself, I'm trying to educate myself more on the laws for the animals. Do you know any just offhand that maybe people just don't realize?
So there are state laws as far as animal cruelty and the caring and keeping, and the state laws are food, water, shelter. Those are the things that you definitely have to provide. In Jefferson, however, it goes a little bit deeper into defining what the keeping of an animal looks like. They have to be in a kennel that they can stand up and turn around and have room in. They do have to be safe from inclement weather, a doghouse, an igloo, that kind of thing. And they have to have water 24 hours a day, but we understand that dogs sometimes tip over their water bowls and things like that. So trying to figure out, calling us and trying to figure out what that looks like if you need some help in that regard. In Jefferson, you can only tether. And what we call tethering is it's not a fixed point. So on a runner, you can have a runner in your yard so the dog has the ability to move around freely. You can't tie them to a fixed point, and you definitely can't do it for an extended period of time. It's not, they can't be there, they can't be tethered to a fixed point as a form of confinement. So those individuals who can't have a dog loose in their backyard because of the fact that they may escape or things like that,
Mhm.
there is a runner that goes the full length of a yard. The dog actually has the ability to move around pretty freely. There's, of course, across Louisiana and pretty much the United States, rabies tags. They have to be rabies vaccinated. They have to have tags. Some of the tags are good for 3 years. Some of them are only yearly. You have to keep up with that. Of course, there are numerous different organizations that will help you with that, and the cost, differs depending on where you live. There's in Jefferson, you have to have a permit to breed your pets, and obtaining the permit is $100, but being caught without one and you are breeding, then you're looking at $1,000 fine. So, and the other one that we get questioned about a lot is there a leash law in Jefferson Parish? Absolutely. If you are out and about in the community, you have to have your animal on a leash. Not having them on a leash, unfortunately, will be stopping you just to remind you, hey, you have to have your pet on a leash. Anything can happen. You don't want them to get injured or injure someone else. So, and those are just the ones from the top of my head that I can recall. So,
Yeah, those are super, super helpful. So no, I appreciate that. What is your biggest challenge that you see right now in Jefferson Parish as far as like animal control is concerned?
so I would say my biggest challenge is, or the department's biggest challenge is, somebody once said that if your facility is full of big dogs, then that's what the community wants. And our biggest challenge is that, having the ability to own a large dog is sometimes the expectation, and then the reality of it is it seems to be where the struggle is. So we see more of them running loose,
Mhm.
getting hurt, hurting others. Sometimes they're just what I want to call marauding. They're all over social media. There's pictures. Here's this pack of dogs that are loose. So I would say that our biggest struggle now is just trying to figure out how we can help the community by preventing so many animals just being at large, and because that's how they end up here. And everybody wants to talk about a stray or an unowned pet. They were all owned They are all owned or
Yes.
were at one time. So being more responsible, we would really like the community to be more responsible and be a responsible pet owner. And if you need help, ask for it. But
Yeah.
sometimes making an appointment, though it may be, you know, a month down the road before we can accept a surrender, but making an appointment, being responsible enough to hold on to the animal till we can take it in here safely, and then bringing it here versus turning it loose where it may,
Yes.
get hurt or hurt somebody or hurt some pet or something like that. I mean, those are probably the biggest struggles, is just, having those types of conversations and, people being more active in the community as far as the animals are concerned.
Yeah. And before talking with you today, I really didn't realize that we have a problem with bigger dogs here. I really didn't realize that. But the more that you say that, I can understand it. But the solution is that Jefferson Parish, will help with what they can, as far as training or whatnot. So thank you for bringing that to light. I did not realize that or know that. And I also, you've got me thinking about the fact that like a lot of rentals and stuff won't take dogs over 25 pounds or whatever. So maybe that's kind of what we need to start advocating for change with, because a lot of them are just lap dogs, right?
Overlap dogs, but yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Do you have, Michelle, a particular story or something where that made you realize, okay, this is what I'm going to do with my life? Was there anything life changing for you? Did something open your eyes to wanting to do this full time?
Yes, so there was a moment working in, again, a smaller rural shelter. I came in one morning and it was a deceased animal in a holding pen at this facility. And upon me approaching, I realized that the animal was in fact not gone. He couldn't stand up, he couldn't move, he was extremely emaciated. I rushed him to a veterinarian, and that was my first instinct. It wasn't, I can't do anything to help him. It was, I need to get help for him. And so I picked him up, I rushed him to a veterinary clinic, and I went, every day to check on him. At lunch, I would go, and for whatever reason, he would only eat if I were feeding him out of my hand. And this kind of went on for a while. He was in critical condition for a really long time. And there was this very strange connection, and outside of the care that the vet office was giving him and that I was trying to provide, just showing him that I was there, I went to social media because I was angry,
Yeah.
and because I just, there was a vehicle that came in the middle of the night, and they literally just, they drugged the dog out of the back of a truck and then just left him there. And you know I couldn't believe that this had just happened. I'd seen many dogs come in. They'd been hit by a car. That's an accident. They'd been out for a while and apparently didn't have food. This was my first experience with something that was intentional. I got a phone call from the veterinarian once they received his blood work back and some screenings that they had done. And they said that on top of the fact that he'd obviously been starved and confined because he wasn't obviously able to seek out other people, food, that kind of thing, like a normal animal would do, including us, he had been poisoned. And
Oh,
there had not been, so there was not a lot that they were going to do. And I had named him Justice, and I did this campaign with the help of a couple individuals in rescue, and it was Justice for Justice. And I put a little placard at the facility just as a reminder, so that when I came in every day, that I would just see that as kind of a fuel to just keep me going,
yeah.
because until
Yeah.
that was like my first real experience with what horrible things can happen. And I didn't want to ever see something like that go unpunished or without somebody to hold accountable. And it was very, very difficult for me. But
I'm sure.
the the positive side of it was so many people that responded and wanted to help and wanted to know what they could do. And that actually turned into other animals and that needed help or were in other situations, and it just got bigger and bigger. And I kind of took that as, this is so eye-opening for me, because on one side
Yeah.
it was probably one of the worst things that I had at that point, but then all of this good was happening. So things happen for a reason is what I had
Yeah.
to force myself to believe. Through what happened to him, so many others were going to receive help that they needed and attention that they needed. And and it just kind of is what pushed me and fueled me to just stay. And I developed that mentality of, I've got it. Everybody, in this industry kind of says it, being the voice for the voiceless. And it
Yeah.
was then that really truly resonated, because that's what we are. They don't have a voice of their own. They can't tell you what they need, what they want, or what has happened to them, but we
Right.
can be their voice and educate the community as to, this is not okay. And, we have to do better. We have to do better as a community. We have to do better for the animals. And even if you're not an animal person, you're never going to own one, there's still a place for you in this, because not
Mhm.
wanting one, you still have the ability to be kind and do no harm. And that's where I wake up every morning, and that's what I'm determined to do. I'm determined to be their voice. And there's thousands of us, there's hundreds of thousands of us that feel that way and are that. And everybody has their own little story, but that was the one that really, I guess it was that anger that I felt that actually was, no, this isn't going to
Yeah.
happen. This has got to stop. And
Yeah.
and it kept me going for a really, really long time. And since then, there have been so many that have made paw prints across my heart that have also just kept me going. I mean, 7 years ago, I drove a dog that had never been seen by this family from Louisiana to Tennessee. His name was Big Mish, and he was underweight. His prognosis was not good. They said he was probably not going to make it. This family had never met him in person, saw a picture, and they had one large dog that was a senior that had some medical issues, and two very small dogs. We didn't even know if the dog was going to be okay with other dogs. He was so sick. Drove him to Tennessee on just a turnaround drive, go and drop him off and then drive home and hope that it's going to be okay and it's going to work out. And for 7 years, that family and is still, but became part of my family. And I got pictures, I got magnets, I got calendars. We talked all the time. We are still friends on social media. And when Big Mish passed away, it was a struggle for me. It was a struggle for his adoptive family. But through the love they had for him, and because they were constantly seeing where I was, where are you working now? Where are you at? They adopted another dog from me named
Yeah.
Earl, Big Earl. And it's so strange. I see the picture. It's almost like he knew, like this was a gift and it was being given to him by a spirit he'd never met. And
Yeah.
and they, however hard it was, they're going to keep paying it forward in his name. And Earl is living the life. I mean, I want to be that dog. If something happens to me, I want to come back as Earl, or
Yeah.
a part of that family. So I mean, there's been so many, and all of us have so many stories and things that keep us going. But that's what we focus on. That's what gets
Yeah.
us out of bed every day, even on the tough where you're questioning, why am I still doing
No.
this? Something reminds, and it's them, seeing their faces every day, knowing that you just have to keep keeping on.
Yeah, so you're going to work for justice every day and Earl and all these little precious babies. And I think that's a beautiful story that you gave, and I think you're right. It's like, as hard as it is to get up and go every day and start on the next mission, it's like, remember the ones who you touched so much. I mean, that was something for me too. I mean, I had adopted one out of Jefferson Parish. Again, that's Sue Sampe. kept sharing. And this dog was like, he became like an internet sensation. Like everybody loved him because I would always put him like on social media. He couldn't see, he couldn't hear, but I had such a connection with this dog. I didn't need him to like see me or hear me, but like he knew my touch when I would pet him. He knew, I don't know, I just had such a strong connection with him. And he was a pitiful case, but something just drew me to him, and I came to the shelter. That was when I brought my son to the shelter for the first time at 4 years old. And it was a little intimidating for him, but he understood, hey, we're rescuing this dog. We're giving this dog a beautiful life, however long he has. And we had my precious Horton for about, it was almost 2 years, but he was a senior, and we just gave him, we can't change the lives of all of the dogs there, but we took that one that probably needed us the most and changed his life. And I was with him until the very end of his life. And I had a bond with that dog that was just, it was unspeakable, you know? And like I said, he couldn't see me, he couldn't hear me, but like he knew me. And so, you know, because of Horton, as much as he brought me so much happiness, and it was sad at the end too, but like, I'm always going to be the one to speak up for the Hortons of the world. I mean, somebody just decided, like you said, at one point they all had owners, you know, and at some point somebody just decided they were going to just toss him out like a piece of trash. And thank God for Jefferson Parish Animal Shelter. Y'all picked him up as a stray. And I kind of like to think of it as we worked together as a team, you guys and myself, to get this baby the life that he deserved. So I love that you're there every day, and I know it's probably hard. I commend you and your team because it's not an easy job. It's not a pretty job. It's not glamorous. It's truly God's work and a mission. And so I really want to thank you for doing everything that you do. And I do have a final question for you, Michelle. What would you say if there is a young guy or girl sitting in a rural parish somewhere feeling discouraged, who's seeing the animals and doesn't quite have the resources that we have in Jefferson Parish? If they had the will, but they don't know the way, what advice would you tell them? How would you tell them to make a difference? What could you tell them to get started?
Well, the first thing I'd say is call me, or I I can give them so many people, so many different connections that would at least make them feel like they're not alone in the mission. And individuals, there are so many individuals, I mean, just in this state, of course, across the United States, that are just a wealth of knowledge. There are still those that are still in this, that were there when I started, and those that were here way before I started. There, you're not alone. And here are some important contacts, because just knowing that you have help, and that there are resources out there for you as, you know, a soldier in this army, it can help you stay, because I mean there's a lot of turnaround in this field, and that's why. So, you know, if they're out there and they don't even know where to get started, there are so many people, so many contacts that I can or others can put you in touch with, that will help you. And they will help you with the first step, and then the next, and the next, and always there, and to pick up a phone if you have a question, or you just need to be reminded as to there's a lot more work to be done, but you're not doing it alone. So those are probably the things, that their message that I would want them to know.
Yeah, no, that's super helpful because I think a lot of them are sitting alone, being like, oh my gosh, I can't do anything because it's just me. And they need to be reminded. I have a young lady I talk to all the time in a rural parish, and she's like, what can I do? There's tons of these dogs. There's just me. I don't know. She doesn't know of the resources. So that's super helpful information. And I'll tell her to reach out. And I want to keep educating myself too, because there's still stuff I don't know. I learned a whole lot on this podcast today. So I appreciate you taking some time with us. I know that you are a very, very busy woman, and you are changing a lot of lives. Canine lives, feline lives, human lives, changing, doing it all. So you should feel very, very good about the work that you're doing, Michelle.
Thank you. I'm not alone in it. So that's one may not be able to do as much as the many. So that's where I'm fortunate is I happen to know a lot of superheroes, so.
Yes, and the real superheroes, as they say, don't always have the capes. They're right here on this podcast right now talking about the animals.